So, you're building a modern web app. You know the landscape is just jam-packed with JavaScript frameworks. But which one do you pick? Well, today we're going to talk about one that stands out, Aurelia. It's all about its super clean, standards-based philosophy. Let's dive in and see what that really means.
First things first, let's just set the stage here. User expectations have completely changed. Remember the old days? Every single click meant a jarring, full-page reload. Now, we expect these fluid, almost desktop-like experiences with instant feedback. And that fundamental shift is the whole reason these modern frameworks even exist.
I mean, seriously, think about it. Can you imagine using an old chat app where every single message you sent triggered a 3-second page refresh? The conversation would just die. Today, apps like Slack or Messenger give us that live, real-time feedback. You can see when someone's typing, when a message is delivered. That seamless experience? That's not a luxury anymore, it's the baseline.
And the architectural pattern that makes all this magic happen is the single-page application, or SPA for short. The core idea is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You load the main application shell just one time, and from then on, you only update the little bits and pieces of the page that actually need to change. This is what creates that fast, fluid feel we all love.
Okay, so where does Aurelia fit into this picture? Well, Aurelia is a modern JavaScript framework built specifically to create these kinds of sophisticated single-page applications. But look, there are a ton of frameworks out there, right? What really sets Aurelia apart is its philosophy on how you should build them. Look, before any smart team just jumps on a new tool, they've got to ask the right questions. And this isn't just about a checklist of features. It's about finding the right fit. How is this tech actually going to work with your team, your project, and your goals for the future? You got to think about stuff like, how complex is our app? Do we need a jackhammer or a finely tuned scalpel? How critical is it for us to stick to web standards? What skills does our team already have in the bank? And maybe most importantly, how do we get our developers and our designers to work together smoothly without stepping on each other's toes? Aurelia was literally built to answer these questions. And that brings us right to the heart of Aurelia's core philosophy. It's built on a solid foundation of web standards, and it's all about a clean, clear separation between the application's logic, its behavior, and its presentation, what the user actually sees and interacts with. Now take a look at this, because this visualizes it perfectly. On one side, you have the developer, just living in their world of pure JavaScript, focusing on the business logic. And on the other side, you have the designer, working with standard HTML and CSS. Aurelia acts as the bridge, connecting them, which means neither person has to get bogged down in the other's complex world. Now, this isn't just some abstract, nice-to-have idea. This approach has huge real-world benefits. Because Aurelia leans so heavily on web standards, new developers can get up to speed way faster. They're using the standard HTML and JavaScript they already know, not learning a dozen weird framework-specific commands. Your code becomes way easier to maintain, you can plug in other libraries without a massive headache, and all of this means lower development costs over the life of the project. It's a win-win-win.
All right, so we get the philosophy, the why. Now let's pop open the hood and look at the tools. What does Aurelia actually give you right out of the box to build a modern SPA?
First up is routing. This is so crucial. It's what makes a single-page application feel like a real website. It lets your users bookmark a specific screen deep inside your app, share that link with a friend, and use their browser's back and forward buttons. All the stuff we totally take for granted, but is absolutely essential for a good user experience. Next up, data binding and templating. Okay, this is the real magic engine at the heart of any SPA. It's the system that keeps everything in sync. When your data changes in the JavaScript, boom, the UI updates automatically. When a user types into a form, boom, your JavaScript instantly knows the new value. This is the mechanism that completely eliminates those dreaded full-page reloads.
And finally, components. As your app gets bigger, you can't just manage it as one giant messy file. That's a nightmare. Components let you break your UI down into small, self-contained, and reusable pieces, kind of like Lego bricks. You can build a search bar component, a user profile component, and then just snap them together to create a really complex page. So we know what Aurelia is and what it does, but where does it really truly shine? To understand that, we gotta take a quick look at the different ways web applications are put together these days.
First, you've got the classic old-school server-side model. Every time you click a link, your browser asks the server for a whole new page, and the server sends back brand new, fully rendered HTML. It's simple, it works, and it's great for content sites, but it's not very interactive.
Then there's this middle ground, the hybrid approach. Here, most of the site is still rendered on the server, but you have these small, interactive islands of functionality, like a shopping cart widget or a comment section, that are built like mini SPAs. It's a great way to add a bit of richness to an existing site.
And then you have the full client-side SPA. In this model, the server basically sends a big bundle of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS to the browser on that very first load. And from that point on, the entire application runs and renders right there in the user's browser, only calling back to the server when it needs to fetch some data. And this right here is where Aurelia lives and breathes. That full client-side SPA model, building a complete, rich, interactive application that feels like a desktop app but lives in the browser, that is Aurelia's sweet spot. It's what it was designed for. So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, think about applications that feel more like software than a simple website. We're talking about things like messaging clients, super detailed reporting dashboards, complex data entry forms, or even powerful admin panels for managing a website. These are all perfect candidates for Aurelia. You know, this quote really just nails it. Because Aurelia is so focused on web standards and clean conventions, you spend less time writing boilerplate, that framework-specific junk, and more time writing the actual code that makes your application unique. You get all the power without all the unnecessary complexity. So as we wrap this up, the final question really is for you. As you're thinking about your next big web project, just consider if a framework that puts clean code, web standards, and developer productivity first is the right fit. Is this the kind of foundation you want to build on? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.